Hey everyone, what's going on? So the big news in sports today is that Antonio Brown of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took off all of his equipment, threw it in the crowd, and then left, and now he's no longer a Buck. And if you learn the language of Gematria or Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases, you'll see that this whole thing is all coded to the events of 9/11. And think about how this happened against the New York Jets. If you go back in history, when Tom Brady became the greatest player ever, right? It was right after Drew Bledsoe of the Patriots got injured in the game against the New York Jets on September 23rd of 2001. And think about this. The New York Jets, right after 9/11, think about Jets and 9/11. Then the Yankees go on to upset the what was it, the 116 win Seattle Mariners, and the Yankees go on to make the World Series. New York in the World Series after 9/11. George Bush passes the Patriot Act. Then the Patriots go on to the Super Bowl. Think about all the patriotism that was going on after 9/11. I mean, it's such a joke. And then now this happens against the New York Jets of all things, and Tom Brady, he becomes the man in the game against the Jets. That's when it all began, really, after Drew Bledsoe was injured. And we'll just look at the gematria here. So today just so happens to be 189 days after Antonio Brown's birth, or before Antonio Brown's birthday. It's also 6 months and 8 days. And in these Francis Bacon ciphers that I've talked a whole lot about, if you type out Tampa Bay, it just so happens to equal 189. So this is 189 days before his birthday, and this all happens, right? And if you don't believe that these Francis Bacon ciphers are legit, look at Tom Brady, 170, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also 170. This is why, after Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers, they got their backup quarterback, who was Blaine Gabbert, and they did that 170 days before Blaine Gabbert's birthday. And this is why Vincent Jackson died 170 days before Tom Brady's birthday. I mean, it's, it's totally legit. To, just prove my point any further with these Francis Bacon ciphers where capital letters are really important, if you read out Los Angeles equals 213. And think how the Super Bowl this year is going to be held on the date 213 in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles has the 213 area code, and things like Kobe Bean Bryant equal 213. They're just absolutely super legit and important. I just want to get that across. But so Tampa Bay equals 189. This story about Antonio Brown, it now comes 189 days before his birthday. And notice it's also 6 months and 8 days. This is a humongous number with 9/11. Also, the New York Jets. The New York Jets haven't won the Super Bowl since the 1968 season. But 9/11, it happened 68 days after George W. Bush's birthday, the president during 9/11. Also, AT&T made 911 the emergency dialing code in the year 1968. And they did it on 3/3, which is 6 months and 8 days before 9/11. And George Bush also graduated from Yale and the secret society called Skull and Bones in the year 1968. And we'll just look at Skull and Bones really quick, just to show you what I'm talking about. But Skull and Bones is a secret society who places emphasis on this number 322. It's a really important number to the society. What are the odds? They place importance on a number, right? Just like how the Bible, the number 666. What in the world is the beast the number? These are things that people need to think about. And if you learn gematria, you'll understand that, you'll understand the importance of why numbers play a big role. But in relation to skull and bones, if you use the S and K exception in gematria, skull and bones also equals 68 in gematria. And George Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, was also a member of Skull and Bones. And his father, Prescott Bush, was also a member of Skull and Bones, who equals 68. And keep in mind, only 15 people can be a member each year. And in 2004, John Kerry and George Bush were running against each other for president. John Kerry, also a member of Skull and Bones. Like, what are the odds that two people from this secret society that only 15 people can be a member every year are running for president against each other, you know? And, you know, to go even further, like George Bush's mother, Barbara Bush, she was born on June 8th, 6/8. You know, just there's all kinds of connections. Even 1968 was 33 years before 9/11 happened. And of course, you know, 33 years before, think how AT&T made 911 the emergency dialing code on 3/3. And if you write out 33 as words, it equals 156. And the 156 prime number just so happens to be 911. And so does the word false flag. And a false flag is something that stems back to kind of pirate stuff, right? They would raise a false flag and make other people think that someone committed a thing when really it was them, you know, and they raised the false flag. Just like on 9/11, how, you know, it was totally, you know, a group of an elite people that fooled pretty much the whole world into thinking that it was Osama bin Laden and so on, right? A false flag. And then think about that in relation to like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo, right? Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the pirate team. They got the logo that's like the skull and crossbones, but except it's the swords, right? A skull and crossbones. Just can't get any more perfect, you know? It's funny too, on 9/11, George Bush was only like an hour away from Tampa, Florida, too. He was at that Emma Booker High School or whatever it is. It's just south of Tampa, Florida, which is kind of interesting. But let's go back to this whole thing here. Just I'm making a whole point here, you know. In Tampa Bay, in the Francis Bacon also equals 156, right? So the 156 prime number is 9/11. New York Jets synced up to 9/11. If you go from 9/11 to today, it's 3 months and 22 days. Think about Skull and Bones, 322, right? And of course, in the Francis Bacon ciphers, if you write out the World Trade Center, guess what it equals? 322. And, you know, once again, think about how George Bush, the president during 9/11, was a member of Skull and Bones. They programmed us with the saying "never forget." Never forget equals 322. In these ciphers, Skull and Bones equals 254. 9/11 just so happened to be on the 254th day of the year. But to further connect today to Skull and Bones and so on, right? So it's 3 months and 22 days after 9/11. If you go look up Drew Bledsoe, right? The guy who got injured against the New York Jets when Tom Brady became the starter. Today just so happens to be 322 days after his birthday, right? So his birthday is also 156 days after 9/11, right? The 156 prime is 911. Today's 322 days after his birthday. Back on October 3rd, Tom Brady just so happened to break the career passing record, right? And he needed 68 yards to beat Drew Bledsoe's record. He went into the game needing 68 yards. What are the odds? 68? And of course, you know, he ended up getting 269 yards, and that's important because New England Patriots just so happens to equal 269. But if he got 269 and he needed 68, that means that he got 201 more than he needed. And look what Skull and Bones equals in Gematria. 201. It's all a big Skull and Bones ritual. And when he broke the record, it was to a pass to this guy named Mike Evans, who also tried to stop Antonio Brown from leaving today. But Mike Evans, when Tom Brady broke that record, it just happened to be 322 days after Mike Evans' birthday. Or actually, 322 days before his birthday. But notice that he was born on the date 21/8, August 21st, which in most parts of the world they rate the date 21/8. This is also a very important number to 9/11 because World Trade Center construction began on August 6th of the year 68. I forgot to mention that earlier, but very important piece, right? World Trade Center construction began in 1968, And it also began on August 6th, which in most parts of the world they could write it as 6/8. But typically, that was a leap year, but typically August 6th is the 218th day of the year. And, just think about that guy's birthday, 218. And these Francis Bacon ciphers, if you write out Osama bin Laden, 218. Twin Towers, 218, also 156. What are the odds they get destroyed on 9/11, right? And if you go over here and you write out the World Trade Center, it equals 218. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers even came back in the game today, and so they were losing, 10-24 when Antonio Brown went out? And then they come back and win because this guy, Cyril Grayson, made the game-winning touchdown, and then he made the two-point conversion as well to give him 28 points. And, of course, he's 28 years old. If it'll load here. He's 28 years old. Today is 28 days after his birthday. And, they ended up winning with 28 points, just like how when Tom Brady broke the record, it was a 28-yard pass to Mike Evans. Something important to that, but notice Cyril Grayson equals 68 and 218. And today is also 337 days after his birthday, and the 68th prime number is 337. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers equals 337 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. And his birthday, 12/5, is also interesting because for years I've associated that with Skull and Bones, because if you read through Skull and Bones, there's no actual founding date that you can find, but they were actually created over a dispute over the Phi Beta Kappa Awards. And when you look up Phi Beta Kappa, they were founded on 12/5. So this Cyril Grayson's birthday. And if you write out Phi Beta Kappa, it also equals 218. Just fitting perfectly with the narrative. And Antonio Brown's birthday just so happens to be 218 days after Cyril Grayson's birthday, I mean, there's no way this can all just be that perfectly synced up, can it? Think about, this number 2. Think about 9/11 in regards to conspiracy theory, right? Conspiracy theory. Let's type it out really quick. Conspiracy theory, 218. The guy who coined the term conspiracy theory just so happened to be a guy named Richard Hofstadter. And I bet you can't believe when his birthday was. August 6th. And he died 2 months and 18 days after his birthday. And conspiracy theory equals 218. And, it was all synced up to the CIA and the JFK assassination. Look at CIA equals 68. And to further prove what I'm talking about, that guy named Richard Hofstadter, he died on October 24th, which is the day leaving 68 days in the year. Perfect. 68 days in the year. He's born on August 6th. That is 2 months, 18 days after his birthday. Conspiracy theory equals 218. CIA equals 68. A few other interesting things is that Skull and Bones equals 76 in Gematria. And also 41, and, a whole bunch of stuff with 9/11, 41, such as the Yankees upset the Mariners 41 days after 9/11. There's also 1 month and 11 days, like 111, and 9/11 leaves 111 days in the year. And New York equals 111, and the Twin Towers look like a giant 11, and George H.W. Bush gave a speech about the New World Order exactly 11 years to the day before 9/11 happened, NWO, and then think about Flight AA-11, or the first one to hit, right? AA, so 11/11, and Gematria, and just all kinds of stuff, but lost my train of thought there, but Skull and Bones. That's what it was. Skull and Bones equals 76. George Bush's birthday this year is 7/6, and he's going to be 76 years old. So I feel like there's a definite, ritual prepared for this year with George Bush and the number 76 and Skull and Bones, and possibly something to do with the 9/11, There's something definitely important. It's interesting to see. I'll be interested to see who actually does win the Super Bowl. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of tiger symbolism that's linked up to the It's a Chinese tiger year too, and tiger equals 76. There's a whole bunch of tiger symbolism that's linked up to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I've also been following the Rams a whole lot, and possibly it's because the Rams played the Patriots right after 9/11. But notice the Los Angeles Rams equals 218. And I did talk about Super Bowl 53 a whole lot in the whole month of November in relation to young Dolph dying and some other things. But we recently just had the death of John Madden, and that makes me think of that John Madden shooting that happened in 2018, right? That was on the same day, the anniversary of Colin Kaepernick originally taking a knee, and it was synced up to. It was a guy shooting up the Madden game in Jacksonville, but he was from Baltimore. But there was a story about a black cat or something that escaped from the zoo in New Orleans earlier that year. And, think about Jacksonville, the black cat. And it was all about the War of 1812. So Colin Kaepernick takes the knee, and, that was synced to the national anthem that got written at the Battle of Baltimore in the War of 1812. But the War of 1812 came to an end with the Battle of New Orleans. And Jacksonville is named after Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson was the leader of the Battle of 1812, or the new Battle of New Orleans and the War of 1812 that ended the war and so on, right? It was a big old narrative, but a big thing that I pointed out back then was right around that same time, Teddy Bridgewater got traded from the Jets to the New Orleans Saints. And for years, I've been following this big pattern with the Rams and Teddy Bridgewater. So I thought maybe that was really important to, Teddy Bridgewater to the Rams, because it's just a big old narrative. I really think the team to watch this year is the Rams, and it's all linked up to the Ravens and so on. And the Raiders, think about John Madden and whatever. So John Madden dies, and then the Ravens end up playing the Rams. And all year, the Raiders have been linked up to the Ravens. And, such as they opened the season up against the Ravens when John Gruden retired or resigned. The Ravens beat the Colts on Monday Night Football. And the Colts are originally from Baltimore, where the Ravens play. When the Henry Ruggs thing happened, the car accident or whatever, the Ravens and the Ravens and the Raiders both had a bye week. So I mean, there's just been all kinds of these connections to the Ravens and the Raiders, and the so then when I noticed the Ravens were playing the Rams, I thought, oh, I better watch the Ravens game this week, and it just so happens that the Ravens end up losing to the Rams today with a score of 20-19, which makes me think of Super Bowl 53 that happened in 2019. And when you go and look at the Ravens' other record, they also lost to the Steelers earlier this year with a score of 20-19. And they're going to finish their regular season against the Steelers. But if you look at the cover of that Madden game that got shot up, it has Antonio Brown on it playing for the Steelers. So I feel like there's something important to the Rams, and they're synced up with some other things. It would take 3 hours to explain what I'm talking about, but even like the death of Dan Reeves, there's some interesting connections that go back to the Rams. And Miley Cyrus had this wardrobe malfunction on New Year's Eve that reminded me of Mariah Carey being drunk a few years ago. That was linked up to Janet Jackson and Charles Manson and Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction. And when she was singing songs off her album called Rhythm Nation 1814, which was a tribute to the year Francis Scott Key wrote the national anthem in Baltimore. Rhythm Nation, right? R is the 18th letter, N the 14th. Rhythm Nation 1814. She says she didn't do that on purpose, but pretty sure she probably did. But I just think, Madden dies. I don't know. I feel like it's probably possibly connected to that season. But we'll see. Maybe it is because the Rams played the Patriots after 9/11, all linked up to Tom Brady. There's all that tiger symbolism. the Raven, and the Steelers too, in regards to the Ravens. Right? We talk a lot about the Ravens in regards to the new Batman movie coming out. The new Batman movie's coming out in relation to the Super Bowl. Remember the Batman shooting with Hines, or the Batman Aurora, Colorado shooting, and then that movie had Hines Ward, the Steelers player, number 86, and he runs the ball back as the stadium collapses after the guy named Ravenstall kicks the ball off, and the team looks like the Ravens, and Christian Bale equals 86, and Hines Ward wore the number 86, and James Egan Holmes equals 86, and Aurora, Colorado equals 86, and Bane, the character who blows up the stadium, equals 86, and a whole lot more. So, been following 8/6/2022 a whole lot, but let's see. Go back here really quick, and I've also, the Rams stuff was all linked up to this Nebraska Cornhusker stuff too, and there's been a whole lot of. I'm gonna make a whole nother video on this eventually, but we're getting that story about Rajon Rondo being traded to the Cavaliers, and then the Lakers are going to get Denzel Valentine and drop him and so on. But it's really symbolic to this old Teen Wolf narrative that I followed with the Nebraska Cornhuskers and how it syncs up to Zach LaVine and the Bulls. And I mean, actually, if you go and read some of my old posts from like over a year ago, I talked about how the Chicago Bulls are going to be important this year because it's going to be the 23rd anniversary of Michael Jordan retiring from the Bulls and a whole bunch of other stuff. And, they're having a hellacious season. They're even linked up to they're like the first team to really, have all the players be gone from coronavirus. And, it's all just scripted ridiculousness anyway, isn't it? Like, yeah, they're all vaccinated and everyone's getting coronavirus. And now it's like, oh, well, if you get the vaccine, you'll get over it faster. It's just like, well, people had it before they had the vaccine and they got over it just fine too. It's like, let's go start the NBA bubble and nobody can get in if they're not vaccinated. Or nobody can get in if they test positive, and then when no outsiders can get in. If you leave, you can't come back. But right after we get on the bench, we got to put on our mask because nobody has coronavirus. Like I don't even get it. It's just the stupidest thing ever. Make sure to put on your mask in a place where nobody has coronavirus and no one with it can get in. It's such a joke. But we'll leave it at that. I'll just make it real short. Just want to show the 9/11 symbolism, and maybe I'll talk about some other stuff in a different video, but I don't know. We'll look at I don't know. We'll see what happens next week with the Rams and see if the Ravens somehow, it's a long shot now, but we'll see if they make the playoffs or something like that. But definitely watching the Rams, at least for symbolism in relation to what's going on. So have a good one. Peace.